Hey, my magical friends. Welcome to another Witchful Ways podcast episode. I am Annika, offering you insight, guidance, tools, and an amazing membership to allow you to live a magical life every single day. So we are the week of, we're starting Yule. We have the winter solstice tomorrow, the beginning of Yule season. We have Christmas this upcoming week. There's a lot of twinkling lights in my area, which is amazing. But I want to talk a little bit this week about something that I do every year that I think, since I've started doing it, has really made a difference in how I plan my upcoming year. And if you're not planning your upcoming year, you're just kind of floating through, right? Like, we all set goals. There's things we want to do, like next year I want to buy a house, or I want to get, a new job, or I want to have a baby, or I want to get married, or, whatever it is. And then, as we spoke about in the last couple weeks, there's spiritual journeys that people go on saying, I want to dive deeper into this particular area of learning or expertise, or working on this particular modality of spell casting because I want to master it so I don't have to worry about whether or not I'm doing it right? Like, there's all that learning aspect that comes too. And when we make New Year's resolutions, we're basically setting goals for ourselves, right? Like, we're giving intention to our goals, what we want to occur and happen. That's what those resolutions are. They are lending our intention to them. What is it that you want? So I always suggest that you plan out your new year. One of the things that I do is kind of sit back, and as I mentioned in last week's podcast, sit back and evaluate what you achieved and received in this past year, right? The year that we're going out of, 2021. What did you achieve or receive or begin or give up on in the past year, and what are you going to do about it, right? Like, if we achieved or received something, that's amazing. We need to celebrate that, but then we have to think, what's the next step on that aspect? Because we're never at an ending, right? It's never like, yeah, I've arrived. It's always like, oh my gosh, I made it. I achieved this. I feel great. I'm going to celebrate this. And now, what's the next step? We look to, what do we do now? So I think having a goal and a plan for the next year is something that is vital in your forward progress in all aspects of your life, and especially when you're manifesting things, right? So I'm going to talk about something that I do every year, and I invite everyone to do it. And that is two things, kind of. That is, one, to sit down and evaluate this past year. We're just past the full moon. We're still kind of in that full moon vibe happening, right? Those energies are still hitting us right now. Well, as of the recording of this anyways, but right now. So there's a lot of change that happens. There's a lot of transformation that happens. There's a lot of expectation that comes up, and there should be a lot of evaluation about what you've been through and what you've come through to get to where you're at now. So sitting down and evaluating and go, okay, what is it that I was really drawn to? What are my guides? What is Spirit telling me that I need to be focusing attention on? For me personally, I've noticed that the last couple months, it's been huge with numbers. Now, being right in most of us that label ourselves witches or that have a spiritual aspect, we're very familiar with numbers, number sequences, angel numbers, spirit numbers, guide numbers, whatever you decide to call them, right? We see 11:11 on the clock. We see 2:20, or we wake up at 2:22 a.m., right? And look at the clock. Like, we recognize that numbers have their own frequency and their own meanings. And that is something that I have been very pulled to in the last couple months. So one of my goals in 2022, and in fact, I've already started it, but by prepping myself for it, one of my goals in 2022 is to dive into learning numerology. I haven't ever really done the studying on it. right? Like I know the surface stuff, and a lot of us know surface stuff of astrology or numerology or manifesting or spell casting or, whatever it is. We know the surface. We know enough to connect with it and to utilize it. But if you really dive deep, if you really go into mastering something, it can make huge changes in your life. And I've spent years working with the energies for spell casting / and or manifesting, right? Like I have that mastered. It is down to what I would consider a science for me. I know the steps, I know what needs to be done, and I know what order they need to go into for me to manifest what it is that I want. And that's why the second thing that I'm doing in 2022 is opening my Manifesting with Magic, MAGICK, Manifesting with Magic, to share those steps with you, because it has done so much for me. And my point in being a teacher is to be able to share with other people those experiences, that knowledge, and that interaction with universal law. To be able to say, you know what? This is what I've been able to do, and I know that this is the process that gets you there. It's not cookie cutter, but I know that these are the steps. You need to do the fine work, you need to fine tune it, but these are the steps, right? So that's a second thing. So the third thing that I'm going to be doing is picking my theme of the year or word of the year. And that is something that usually is brought on again by having focus drawn to it, or a meditation, or a spirit message, or however it is that you connect, right? This is something that I've been doing for years now, but this is something that usually towards the end of every year, I get into a very evaluation mindset, right? Like, what am I doing? What am I doing next? Like, what do I need to tweak? And I'm talking calendar year, because I celebrate both Samhain and the turning or the Witch's New Year on November 1st, as well as the calendar New Year on January 1st. I think you should celebrate every single thing that you can celebrate, and I do. Okay? So when I'm talking about New Year in this conversation and context, I'm talking about January 1st, right? When you make those resolutions. So towards the end of the calendar year, my focus and attention turns again to be very evaluating in a mindset of, what do I need to be doing for the next year? How do I need to be growing? Who did I touch? What did I do? What did I love to do, and what did I totally dislike, and I'm not going to bring that into the new year with me? Both on all aspects of my life, right? But on personal, home, finances, business, all that gets evaluated. So then I sit down and I kind of come together and I'll go, okay, well, what's kind of a theme of something that I see for myself that I need to work on, or that I need to explore, or that I want to dive into? And again, like I said, one of those things that came up for me was numerology. So I've already registered and got myself in place for a new session numerology thing that starts in the new year. But I also chose that word. What's that theme? And mine came to me as being simplicity. Simplify. That's my word, simplify. Because we tend to make things so convoluted and so much more complicated than they need to be. We like to add all that stuff. And part of adding all that stuff is overthinking the decisions and the choices that you think you've already made, right? So if I start to simplify things down, that is going to take a portion of that overthinking, which is part of my personality, going to take that overthinking out of it. It's going to allow me to put things into place and go, okay, this is what I'm going to do to simplify this area of my life. And I have a plan. So come the new year, and a lot of times if I'm way ahead of myself, I started on December 1st to kind of get myself prepped for it, but normally come January 1st, right? Like, this is my new year now. This is the plan that I'm executing. I have taken the time to evaluate. I've taken the time to connect with my higher self, with my guides. I've taken the time in December to sit back and realize where it is that I want to be going. What's my passion? Like, what's my next step? And I'm committing myself to that for the next year. And when I realized that my word was simplify, a weight lifted, right? Like, it's like, yes, you know when you hit it, and that's right. You know when a message comes through for yourself that just resonates to your core with you. And that's what happens when you find your word. Now, sometimes you're kind of like, well, you know what? My word is going to be completion. And that's great too, only because you've recognized and realized that one of your downfalls, quote unquote, or weaknesses, quote unquote, is that you tend to start things and you don't finish them. So completion would be something that you may want to put as a focal point in your 2022. Now, this just means, again, that you give it focus throughout the year. You try and align yourself with the energy of that word so that you can do whatever you need to do, so that it can enhance your life in whatever way that it can. And it will. So that's why I love to sit down and to pick a theme and then of the upcoming year, and then assign a word to it. Or sometimes the word comes and then the theme goes with it, right? But so for me, again, it's going to be simplify. And that's going to be amazing. So I hope that you take the time, again, towards the end of the year here, that you're going to be evaluating, taking the time to really sit down and plan out your upcoming year, because without an outline, without a plan, again, you're just kind of allowing yourself to float down the river of life rather than having a destination in mind and doing the paddling that's going to give you the direction to get to that goal of where you want to be. And that's part of manifesting as well. So I hope that you are going to, again, take the time to do that. I thank you so much for listening to the podcast, for being in the Witchful Ways Facebook group, for those of you that are in the Circle membership, with the Witches with Wine monthly meetings. I love those. And again, make sure that if you're starting out on a spiritual journey, or if you have questions, you're not sure where to start, I am always here. Go to the Witchful Ways Facebook group, or reply to one of my emails if you're on the email list. If you go to witchfulways.com, it'll give you the ability to click on a picture that'll take you to a free, I'm going to call it a quote unquote course, because that's the only way that it can be put on my website. But it's the Witchful Ways bundle, and that gives you 8 different guides, a printable tarot deck, and 7 video mini classes that you can start to get foundations, or maybe answer some questions, or maybe bring back to the basics. Or if you've been, on your path for many moons, maybe it just gives you a different perspective in how to look at something. I hope to connect with you. I hope you have an amazing Yuletide season, and I hope you enjoyed Christmas that's coming up, if you celebrate it, or whatever holiday it is that you're celebrating, and that you're looking forward to an amazing 2022, because you have the ability to make it that way. Have a wonderfully magical rest of your day.